live with a special report on the 2020 general election. You might have seen some of our coverage so far. We were up late last night as the Board of Elections was finally certifying the results of the 2020 general election. All the local races, county races, federal races, the results are finally in, at least here in Middlesex County. But we're going to show you how it's not over yet in one city, PERTH AMBOY, where runoff elections are going to be necessary next month, and where allegations of voter fraud and stolen mail-in ballots may continue to impact that city. So stay tuned for exclusive video that we've obtained and the full story on the voter fraud allegations coming out of PERTH AMBOY. But before we get there, I want to introduce my co-host today, a very special reporter for New Brunswick Today, who's going to be walking us through some of these results, Ms. Chrissy Capella. Thanks for being with us, Chrissy. Tell us about your findings with the big races on the ticket this year.
Thanks, Charlie. Sure thing. So we'll start with the federal races. And of course, the biggest one is the presidential race. And even though the president continues to challenge results nationwide, as of last night, we have some certainty on the outcome of the presidential race, at least here in Middlesex County. So 60% of the voters went for Joe Biden and 38% for Donald Trump. Middlesex County trends blue compared to the rest of the country, as one can see by the fact that 52% of the country voted for Joe Biden. He won the popular vote by more than 5 million votes. Also, Middlesex County voted 55% for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So you can see here that Joe Biden has garnered more support. So, and believe it or not, 52% is one of the highest percentages of the vote that a presidential candidate has gained in US history. Third-party votes were way down this year. The actual winner will be determined by the Electoral College on December 14th. Joe Biden currently has 306 electoral votes, and Donald Trump has 232 electoral votes. That whole process is crazy, right? So moving on to Middlesex County. Okay, so these votes are for federal office, but these are the Middlesex County tallies only. So for US Senate, Cory Booker easily won his re-election, and Middlesex County is divided into 2 congressional districts. As for the 6th congressional seat, Frank Pallone Jr. secured an easy win this year, as he has been in the district since 1993 and in Congress since 1989. He's chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, a very powerful role in terms of healthcare and addressing the climate crisis. And just bear with me for a moment while these numbers populate on my screen. But Frank Pallone Jr., he handily won with about 136,000 votes. Bonnie Watson Coleman, she's my congresswoman here in the 12th district. She won re-election with 70% of the votes, and she earned the endorsement of Senator Bernie Sanders this year, thanks to her long-standing progressive record. Now moving on to the state questions. The thing that made nationwide news is that New Jersey voted to legalize marijuana here, finally. So 62.7% of the state voted yes, whereas 30.3% voted no. And it's not in effect just yet. The state legislature still needs to take action to officially legalize cannabis. They're busy debating the details, so people just need to wait a little bit longer. And then some other ballot questions that were on. New Jersey voted yes to give property tax deductions and exemptions to peacetime veterans, and voted yes to change the redistricting schedule if census data is delayed, essentially due to the COVID-19 crisis. Now we're moving on to county races. Nancy Pinkin won the race for Middlesex County's new county clerk, who has the greatest pleasure of running our county's elections and ballots. Nancy Pinkin is the first new county clerk in 25 years. She will resign from the state legislature this year, creating an opening in District 18. So if you live in East Brunswick, Edison, Helmetta, Highland Park, South Plainfield, or South River, keep your eye out for a battle for the seat. County Freeholder will officially be renamed to County Commissioner in January 2021 because residents believe the term to have been antiquated and problematic. Leslie Koppel and Charles Tamaro both won re-election this year. Charlie, handing it back to you.
Thanks so much, Chrissy. Great rundown of those big elections. We are going to start looking at the local races in PERTH AMBOY, where a new system of elections went into place this year. You can see that the mayor for 3 terms is running for another term. Wilda Diaz is in first place, followed by Helmine Kaba. Now, Mr. Kaba and Ms. Diaz are going to have another election. The new rules in Perth Amboy are that when no candidate achieves a majority of the votes, 50% plus 1 or more, then you have to have another election a few weeks later. And so this election is currently set for December 15th. You can see Joseph Voss is actually the son of the former mayor of the same name, the one who Wilda Diaz unseated in 2008. Of course, the elder Mr. Voss did eventually get convicted of federal crimes and was imprisoned and released. His son, Joseph B. Voss, was making a bid for mayor this year, but it appears fell about 900 votes short of Helmine Kaba, who had enough for that second place finish, which means the runoff will be between Diaz and Kaba. There were 5 candidates total in the race. Moving on to city council, even closer margins here. This race is also going to go to a runoff. Junior Iglesias got the most votes with about 4,500, but the 3rd and 4th place finishers are going to be in the runoff. Bernadette Falcon Lopez and Bienvenido Torres are both going to be in that race. So 4 people will be competing for the 2 seats. And you can see Vanessa Bermudez just fell short of being included in the runoff. We'll keep you posted on that. The Board of Education elections in Perth Amboy also extremely close. We're looking at a 10-vote margin here between winning and losing. Marisol Gonzalez with 4122 and Lizette LeBron 10 votes behind. Now we get to the voter fraud allegations. So Perth Amboy has had a history of problems with voter fraud dating back all the way to the vote that decided New Brunswick was going to be the county seat. Supposedly that decision was the result of voter fraud. And this year, we have another case of it. In 2014, there was a city council race that had to be done over again, redo, after more than a dozen ballots were suspect, and a judge ultimately ruled there. Here we have a situation where there are 7 suspect ballots that have already been counted. This is highly unusual. Usually, the counting of the votes would happen after the election, and there would be, safeguards to prevent this from happening. But because Governor Murphy signed a law this year that allowed counties to start counting the votes early, we had a situation come up where 9 voters in Perth Amboy came forward and said that their ballots were stolen. They, in some cases, were trying to get replacement ballots and then learned that a vote had already been cast with their ballot they had been mailed. In some cases, folks showed up on election day to vote and cast provisional ballots. And in other cases, they actually were never able to vote because they never got their ballot. Someone else took it and voted according to these voters. These claims have been brought to the Board of Elections. The Perth Amboy police were involved and began investigating on October 23rd. This has been largely kept quiet. The Board of Elections did have a hearing where they addressed two of the situations, and they ultimately sent it to a judge, and the judge allowed those 2 voters who insisted that they had not cast votes, even though votes had been received and counted in their name. The judge allowed their provisional ballots to count as well. So we have those situations. There were also 2 situations where people voted on someone else's ballot, and the voter was notified because the signature didn't match. So in some cases, the signature matching actually worked, and people who hadn't actually voted were receiving a letter saying that their signature didn't match, and for them to clarify and contact if they wanted that ballot to count. 2 voters actually said, that wasn't my ballot, don't count it. And those ballots were able to be pulled out. So that's the 9 ballots so far we know about that were allegedly stolen. And the term the Board of Elections used was suspect votes. Those 9 suspect votes, 2 of them were taken out and prevented from counting, but 7 of them have already counted. So we see with a election of just a 10-vote margin. Recounts already filed for and going to be underway very soon, and a very tight schedule for Perth Amboy to move on to the next phase of the election, where there's going to be runoffs for the mayor and council seats. Of course, Board of Education, there are not runoffs, so they're going to argue about those ballots in court, and the whoever ends up with the most is going to win. But in mayor and council, we are set for a December 15th runoff, and any challenges, recounts, could potentially delay that vote. And we're on a very tight timeline, because the reason the governor changed that law to allow the ballots to start being counted earlier is because there's so many paper ballots this year, and there's going to be really a lot of time needed to count them all. And so to certify the results of the runoff election, they're already on a 2-week timeline, so they can they have to certify before the new year, which is when the new mayor would be taking over and the new council members would be taking over. So a very tight timeline. And now this morning we are seeing a video making the rounds on social media, and we're going to share that video with you right now. This is a video that we have obtained. It is allegedly showing ballots being taken from a mailbox in Perth Amboy. That was Junior Iglesias, the council candidate who just walked past. And this is another person who appears to be pulling some envelopes out of the mailbox and returning to her vehicle. We're not sure exactly what this is about. We're told by a number of sources that this is a building on State Street. And you can see here council candidate Junior Iglesias. We spoke to him this morning, and he did confirm that this was him. He was there, but he tells us that nothing out of the ordinary was happening. We asked him to explain, what it was that was going on here. But he said, we are preparing a statement, and we are going to make sure you get a copy of the statement. There's obviously more than one version to this story, and we are still waiting for that statement. Here in the video, you can see a second woman coming to the back of the home, and not sure what exactly is going on off camera. It's possible that they're having a conversation with the residents, the people who live there, and this person then leaves with a piece of paper. And according to the people who put this video out, they say that's mayoral aide Jeanette Rios. We spoke to Ms. Rios today, and she confirmed that that was her in the video, and she said the same thing. We actually do have a statement that just came in from Ms. Rios. She says, quote, "It is disgraceful to witness that as Black, Indigenous, and communities of color across the country are being attacked with baseless accusations of voter fraud. Helmeen Kaba and his inner circle are resorting to these same appalling tactics. They should have been better than this. This amateur attempt to mischaracterize and defame legitimate voter engagement without any attempt to seek the facts disqualifies Mr. Kaba from seeking office." So you can see clearly, both sides in this upcoming runoff are, taking aim at one another. We did speak to Mayor Diaz this morning. She said she had not seen the video, so we shared it with her, and she said, quote, "We are going to get to the bottom of this." Mayor Diaz, of course, is aligned with Junior Iglesias in running for that council seat. Remains to be seen what exactly was going on in that video, or if this has anything to do with the stolen ballots that we know about. Again, 7 suspect votes were counted in the Perth Amboy races, potentially more than that. We know at least 2 households that came forward and spoke to Perth Amboy Police Department about this. The Board of Elections tells us they've referred the matter to the Attorney General's office at the state level. And some folks are even saying federal investigators may be looking into this, but we have not gotten any confirmation from any law enforcement sources that anyone is looking into this. So we are continuing to investigate, and we continue to ask people to send us what they know. Again, a concerning situation where 7 votes have already been counted, despite the individuals whose name was on those ballots saying it wasn't them who voted. Of course, millions of ballots were sent out as part of the primarily mail-in ballot election this year. And so you saw on video what might have been someone reaching into a mailbox and grabbing some of those votes. We don't know if they had permission from the voter or if they were going to see the voters there. We don't know what exactly those envelopes were, but we have reached out to the parties involved, and we have given them a chance to explain themselves. And I'm sure you'll be hearing more about this. We are working on a story about it, and you can stay tuned to New Brunswick Today for that. And I'm going to throw it back to Chrissy to let us know about some of the other races for things like mayor and council around the county. Chrissy?
Thanks, Charlie. It's so unfortunate to hear about that. We've been hearing so much about voter fraud nationwide, and unfortunately the issue seems to, at least for now, have made its way to Middlesex County. But on a more positive note, we have some history-making races ahead. So in East Brunswick, we have the mayor's race. Mayor Brad Cohen won re-election with 65% of the vote. And for council, Michael Spadafino and Stanley Shirley both won re-election on East Brunswick City Council. Board of Education, Susanna Chu and Lori Lax both won re-election on City Council. They ran together on a women's slate. And newcomer, he owns an Institute of Alternative Medicine, Mark Carangelo, joins the two women as a new member on the Board of Education. East Brunswick had a local question. The township asked its residents if they could purchase renewable energy at discount bulk rates and provide customers the opportunity to select a 100% renewable energy option by 2030. East Brunswick voted overwhelmingly in support with 69.2% of the vote. East Brunswick's colors are green and white, and they decided to go green this year. Piscataway, Mayor Brian Waller won his re-election with a whopping 70% of the vote. He faced a progressive challenger, William Irwin, earlier this year, but Waller has secured his seat once again. Piscataway City Council, we have Gabriel Cahill, Chanel Scott McCullum, and Kapil Shah are the winners. And for the Board of Education, we have Chantel Cherry, Kimberly Lane, and Zoe Scotto. Now, Zoe Scotto is expected to be the youngest elected official in the entire state of New Jersey. At only 18 years old, she beat an incumbent serving on the board for many years. Congratulations, Zoe. We love to see more bold young women like you running for office. Spotswood, more women making history. Jacqueline Palmer will be the first female mayor in borough history, winning with 59% of the vote, and the council race here went uncontested. Spotswood and HELMETTA Board of Education, Daniel Lennon is the winner with an even 66% of the votes. Charlie, back to you. We've got some more local races to cover.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. There are unfortunately a few towns where democracy is not so healthy, and we're going to tell you about them real quick. These are towns where there were elections, but there were no contests, no one challenging for the seats. Basically, the exact number of offices that were open, that's exactly how many people ran. So there were really no choices for the voters in Highland Park or Jamesburg and North Brunswick, where the number of candidates equaled the number of winners. There were no losers in those races and really no choices for the voters. But there were some towns where they had a little bit of action. Plainsboro, we have a Board of Fire Commissioners race where Paulo Gaspar win. This is the only Board of Fire Commissioners race going on in this November election. Plainsboro actually has the longest serving mayor in Middlesex County, even longer than our mayor here in New Brunswick. Peter Cantu was reelected with no opponent to another term on the township committee, where they will probably keep him around as the mayor for another term. But moving on, New Brunswick, we had no contests for our 3 council seats that were on the ballot this year. So John Anderson, Suzanne Sikora Ludwig, and Glenn Fleming are going to get an additional 4-year term on the council. But New Brunswick voters did have one choice on a ballot question, whether or not to expand our city council from 5 members to 7 members. And that question passed overwhelmingly. You can see more than 5,500 voters in New Brunswick wanted to expand the council by voting yes on that question. And so next year, we will see the first change in New Brunswick's form of government since 1970, as those 2 new seats are added to the council, and we'll keep you posted on those elections when they happen. We had a weird situation in a couple of towns. HELMETTA, the tiniest town of the 25 in Middlesex County, had a race where there were 2 seats on the council, but only one candidate was able to put their name on the ballot. So Noreen Carolyn Genthy won big, got 876 votes, and easily secured a term on the council. The second seat that is open will go to the candidate who got the most write-in votes. So yes, this is possible to happen. Joseph Perez, you can see, got 60 votes. Those are all people who wrote his name in on the ballot. And the next closest person was Nancy Martin, the former mayor, who got 6 votes. So you can see that Joseph Perez is likely to be seated by way of write-in vote if he wants the job. Moving on, we had another similar situation in Sayreville. There was a three seats on the Board of Education with full terms, and you can see Zaleski, Conti, and Novak winning those. But there was also a one-year term. Someone had left the board before their term was done, and so you can see an unexpired term on the Board of Education. This is the results here, and there's only one seat available in this manner. So Patrick Walsh appears to be in first place. Patrick Walsh got 133 write-in votes. Again, no candidates put their name on the ballot in Sayreville. So it will go to the person with the most write-in votes who is eligible and willing to serve. We're not quite sure which Patrick Walsh this is. There's 3 people named Patrick Walsh in Sayreville, and there's actually 3 people named Patrick Walsh in the neighboring town of South Amboy, which one of the Board of Ed members in that town is Patrick Walsh. So we're not sure what exactly voters meant. We've asked for some clarification about, which Patrick Walsh will be offered the seat on the Board of Ed. But just in case Patrick Walsh doesn't end up taking it, there is another candidate with over 100 votes, Adeluz Velaz, who could possibly end up in the seat. Again, we're asking questions about which Patrick Walsh is actually going to be offered the seat here. It's a little confusing at this point based on the latest results. But that rounds out our latest block of election results there, with all the towns where democracy is struggling, where we don't exactly have a robust amount of choices on the ballot. But we're still hopeful that these towns will continue to have a democracy as we move forward. So Chrissy, take it away with some of the races in the towns where we actually had competitive elections.
Sure, Charlie. Yes, so these races are much more straightforward. Nothing is contested, nothing is challenging or difficult. Everything went smoothly. So in Carteret, Debbie Weaver, Janine Bellino, and Dennis Cherepsky won their Board of Education seats. In Cranbury, Matthew Scott is the winner of Town Council. Dunellen, Jessica Dunn, and Tremaine Reed won Borough Council. In Edison, a city or a town of 100,000 people, these Board of Education seats are really meaningful. So Maheen Patel, Virginia White, and Jerry Shee all won Board of Education this year. Metuchen, Tyler Candle, and Daniel Hirsch won Town Council. Middlesex Borough Board of Education winners are Sharon Schuyler, Todd Nicolay, and William Coyle. And in Milltown, we have Peretti and O'Donnell won Borough Council this year. Charlie?
Thanks, Chrissy. I'll take over with Monroe Board of Education. This was a hotly contested race. You can see the winners all had about 10,000 votes. Christine Skirby, Kathleen Belko, and Karen Bierman will win the 3 openings. Sarah Aziz made a good run, but fell short with 7,700 votes. Old Bridge had a Board of Education election. The winners Matthew Solikowski, Jill DeCaro, and Frank Weber, followed by Allison Voss in 4th place. And in one of their town council seats in Old Bridge, they actually had to hold an election for an unexpired term. This is Ward 2, a portion of Old Bridge had an election. They were the only ward to have an election this year, and Eric De Palma prevailed over Zishan Siddiqui, 3,200 to 2,800 about. And South Amboy, this is the election we mentioned before. Patrick Walsh, the top vote getter for that Board of Education seat in South Amboy, followed by Brian Murphy and Ryan Moran. And this was the closest race in all of Middlesex County. You can see the difference between losing here, winning and losing. Just 3 votes. Anthony Conrad came in 4th place, just a few votes shy of Ryan Moran. Considering all the paper ballots, it is possible that a recount might change those results, and it's possible that one was filed for. We're going to watch this race and see if these results change at all, but the official certified election results last night show Ryan Moran with a 3-vote lead over Anthony Conrad for South Amboy Board of Ed. And South Amboy also has a ward-based system of municipal government. So there are 3 wards. Ward 1 and 3 did not have a contest. There's only one candidate running for each of those. But in Ward 2, Thomas Riley prevailed over Robert Mikowicz by a vote of 711 to 447. And South Brunswick, we see a pretty resounding victory for the 3 incumbents on the town council there: Joe Camerata, Ann Grover, and Josephine Hochman, all with more than 15,000 votes. The next closest person, the Republicans, got 7,200 votes. And they also had a South Brunswick Board of Education race this year. 3 seats were open, and they will go to Raja Krishna, Mike Mitchell, and Smitha Raj. Mike Mitchell, of course, is a well-known person in New Brunswick, tennis coach here and an educator in the New Brunswick School District. And I wish him all the best, as he appears to have won a seat on the South Brunswick Council on his 2nd try. And rounding out the list, we've got South Plainfield. They had a Board of Education race, and that was won by Jim Giannakis, Keith Both, and P.O. Hennessy. One more for you, or 2 more for you. South River Borough Council, the Republicans prevailed. James Gerchensky and Julie Mira got just over 3,000 votes, and just under 3,000 votes is David Ryan and Sean Hauserman, who will fall just short of winning. And then back to South Plainfield, we've got a town council race here with Derek White and Christine Noonan Faustini coming in 1st place, and Sandra Doyon and Stephen Remming falling short. So that rounds out pretty much every election we had here in Middlesex County. I want to thank my wonderful co-host today, Chrissy. Thank you for your hard work on this presentation, and look forward to many more broadcasts with you.
Thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. So if you like what you saw here and you want to see more of it, please support New Brunswick Today. You can go to our fantastic website, newbrunswicktoday.com, where we'll be writing about all these elections and all the other news that you care about here in Central Jersey. So please do bookmark that page. And if you really want to help us, become a monthly giving partner, donate to support this work. You can do that from any page on our website, or you can just go to nb.today/donate and make your donation either a one-time gift for the end of the year, or if you like to give us sustaining support, please do consider making a monthly gift. Just $5 or $10 a month really goes a long way to enable us to bring more people like Chrissy onto the team and get more coverage for our wide audience here in Central Jersey. There's just so many stories to cover, and we need your help to keep it going and keep it growing. So thank you everyone for watching. Please share this video, continue to watch and support New Brunswick Today, and have a great day, everybody.